Hello and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Sarah and today we are going to talk about the things that I wish I knew before getting heavily tattooed. It's weird because I don't know if I fully consider myself heavily tattooed, but that might be weird to say to some people, but I don't know, I'm not fully covered everywhere, so I guess maybe. Let's get straight into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is time commitment, and by that I mean having to plan your tattoos around seasons. And when you have certain events in your life, you can't be getting big pieces before big events in your life. For example, during my wedding, I didn't want to get any tattoos close to that time because obviously I didn't want anything to be healing. I wanted all my tattoos to be healed and nothing to look too fresh and stand out way too much in my wedding photos, if that makes sense. So that was one that I had to think about, and I was like, okay, cool, I can't get a tattoo 2 to 3 months before my wedding because I don't want anything to be popping out and super bold compared to my other tattoos, if that makes sense. And also another part that goes into time commitment is things with bigger pieces, you have to dedicate months or even years to them. So for example, with my neck, I did not plan that I would ever have the guts to go for bigger tattoos on my neck that covered most of my neck. Basically, I used to have a smaller tattoo there, but now it is covered up with this big one. And now I am lasering this one off and starting a whole project of getting another big piece on my neck. And that is gonna basically take over a year to get this lasered off and then have it lasered off enough to be able to get it covered up with another thing. So the spontaneity of tattoos is not there as much as it was before when I wasn't this heavily tattooed. A lot of your time just goes into healing tattoos and getting tattooed and planning tattoos, so it is a big time commitment. Also with lifestyle adjustments, the amount of judgment that some people give, especially online. I mostly get it online. Not that many people judge me in real life for being tattooed. I will get a lot of hate comments, specifically from men, commenting on my tattoos, telling me I look like a school desk, which honestly, slay. That's kind of the look I was going for with the patchwork sleeve, so I did it. But yeah, there's a lot more judgment online than there is in real life from where I've lived personally. Yeah, sure, a lot of people stare, and I do not blame them for it because I also do that whenever I see heavily tattooed people. I'm like, whoa, those look so cool, and I'm literally just admiring their artwork on their body, and I don't mean it in any type of mean way, so I assume that other people don't mean it in a mean way either. Sometimes I do get judgmental, what's the word, scornful looks, kind of disgusted looks, and that's completely okay. Not everybody has to like my body, and that is fine. I feel because I've been online for 9 years now, I've been exposed to a lot of people saying so many hateful comments about my body and me. I'm kind of I have really thick skin, so if somebody looks at me weird in person, which rarely has happened, I don't mind it, to be honest. I'm a bit that's cool, don't worry about it. I feel with traveling as well, you'll notice in different countries, some people might stare more, and that's totally cool. For me personally, when I was visiting my older sister in Shanghai, a lot of people were taking photos of me because it's just different. It was just a different thing. And I was taking a selfie of myself, and this man came up to me and was just started taking photos of me, was getting me to pose in different ways and pose with my hands. And I don't mind experiences like that, but it is something to keep in mind if that is something that you are uncomfortable with, that might be a reality eventually if you travel to different places and people are interested. Cultures are different, and societies in different countries are different, and cultural norms are different in different countries. So yeah, that's something to think about before getting heavily tattooed, and keep in mind if that is something that you are okay with. Nobody really means any harm. They just are interested in your artwork, and I personally do not find it annoying at all. I don't mind speaking to people. I don't like when random people do grab and pull me. That is a bit annoying, but I'm kind of just used to it at this point, and it doesn't happen as much anymore. But it used to back when I was in university, but I wasn't even heavily tattooed back then. But a lot of people would grab my arm and look, but that was a lot more when I was in bars and stuff, and I had a lot of drunk people around me. That's when I used to be grabbed and pulled a lot. But luckily that doesn't happen so much anymore, and a lot more people ask for consent nowadays. So I don't know, let me know if you've experienced that as well. I'm sure a lot of heavily tattooed people have. Yeah, I'm not saying all of these things are justified and okay just because you have tattoos. I'm just explaining experiences that I've had personally. For me personally, I am self-employed, so I have gotten really, really lucky with that, so that like I know a lot of corporate jobs, even though society is moving to be less judgmental about tattoos, I know that corporate jobs would still judge if you, in some countries, if you did have like neck tattoos or hand tattoos, palm tattoos, or like super visible tattoos. So that is something that you should keep in mind before getting heavily tattooed and the kind of career path that you're going in. I wish that we lived in a world where people could do whatever they want to their bodies and be heavily tattooed and express themselves through tattoos, but unfortunately I know that that's not the reality for a lot of people. So please think about like your career choices, especially if you are younger. When I was like in my early 20s, I was constantly thinking about the placement of my tattoos and kind of still kept them hidden. But as I got to my mid-20s and realized that I am able to just be self-employed, that's when I was kind of just like, YOLO. Hopefully it works out for me, knock on wood, touch wood. I know that's not the case for everyone and I'm super privileged to be able to experience that, but yes, that is something you have to think about if you want to get heavily tattooed though. I also just wanted to include that like sometimes people might have like perceptions of you or think that you are a certain way when they see you in public and treat you differently because of your tattoos. Not saying that it is okay to do that, but it is something that you have to keep in mind before getting heavily tattooed, and make sure that you kind of mentally prepared that some people may view you differently or view you as more like aggressive or like put stereotype labels on you. It is annoying, but at the end of the day, like I said, personally for me, it's like it doesn't affect me on a day-to-day basis. Luckily, I live in Brighton where there is like a lot of heavily tattooed people, so I don't really stand out that much at all. I can just kind of like blend in, and a lot of people don't make comments towards my body in real life. It's mostly just online where I experience it the most. And I do travel quite a bit, but I've never had like aggressive comments made straight like face to face to me. I do get a bunch of looks and things like that, but luckily, touch wood, nothing bad has ever happened to me because of being heavily tattooed. I do know that in Japan, you won't be able to go to the onsens and you won't be able to go to public gyms. I think that's correct. Yeah. But yeah, that is definitely something to keep in mind if there are certain things that you want to do in life that being heavily tattooed will permit you from doing. And also, like for me personally, my family has never like judged me negatively to a point where they've tried to stop me, but I do know that that is a factor that a lot of people experience, and their families might be like really against them getting heavily tattooed or tattooed. So that is something to keep in mind. But I also want to reiterate that please don't let anyone change like what you want to do with your own body. I wish everyone could do what they wanted with their own bodies, and that includes getting heavily tattooed. And I know like some families can be really judgmental and society is really judgmental, but I implore you to please do what makes you feel happy. Next thing I want to talk about is planning the flow of your tattoos. This is something that like I didn't really think about when I first started getting tattooed, but as you get more heavily tattooed, you really have to kind of plan how your tattoos look together. Obviously, you're never gonna be able to plan it perfectly. I feel like if you overthink it way too much, you're never gonna be happy. And I feel like it's normal to kind of like outgrow your tattoos that you had when you were like 20 and like your style changing. And that's just kind of like a part of being tattooed. Like for me personally, I used to love like only line work tattoos when I was like 18, 19, 20. But then as I got later into my late 20s, I have started liking black work more, and there's always ways to just kind of adjust them to cohesively work together. And with getting heavily tattooed and your style changing with tattoos, I think it is very normal, and there's always a way to just kind of make it all work because it just kind of tells the story of you. And I think that is so beautiful, and there's so much beauty to tattoos. And like, how cool is it that we can put like pieces of art and customize our real life avatars to like tell a story of who we are and what we like, and just random things and put them on our bodies forever. Like that is so cool, isn't it? Like a thing that I would go back and tell myself before being heavily tattooed would be just kind of work around what you have. Some of my tattoos just kind of look random, but the thing is you can always work pieces around it to get it to cohesively look all good together and make it all flow together, if that makes sense. Like right now, for me personally, I don't like how this part of my arm looks, but that's okay, because one day I'm gonna get more tattoos and it'll kind of cohesively all come together. And that's something that I wish I could go back and tell myself not to stress out so much about, because you kind of always figure out how to fill in the gaps at the end of the day, and it's art. And also another thing is that sometimes you're just gonna have random blank bits on your skin. And for example, right now I have like a random blank spot there. And it might look awkward, but at the end of the day, it's probably gonna end up being covered up by something that I'll figure out that looks good there and it'll be there. So then, like, I would tell myself to not really worry about those blank spots, because like at the end of the day, when you have those blank spots, they might feel awkward at the time, but they kind of become a saving grace later when you want to get more tattoos, but you're running out of space. Next thing is the financial reality of getting tattooed. It is expensive. It requires a lot of budgeting and a lot of planning on whether it is something that you are able to financially budget whenever you want to get tattooed. You also have to think about the fact of if you want to be more spontaneous with your tattoos, or if you want to save up to be tattooed by a certain artist, and also thinking about how badly you want a tattoo and how badly you want to budget for it, if that makes sense. That is the thing that really I didn't think about as much until now, and how much money I've actually spent on tattoos, which is something that I don't want to even calculate altogether because I think I'd be really sad. But then again, I'm not sad because I absolutely love all of the ink that I have on me. So was it worth it in the end? Yes, because it's a lifetime, long-term investment that is on your body forever, which is how I personally justify spending money on tattoos, because they do make me incredibly happy, and I've always wanted to be covered in tattoos ever since I was a little kid. So I think that is something that for me is it's an investment into my happiness. And at the end of the day, we all do things in life that make us happy, and that requires spending money. So if that is something that you want to do, then do it. And it is okay. And you don't have to feel bad for it. Oh, just like, yeah, sometimes I would feel bad for spending money on tattoos, but at the end of the day, it's what makes me happy. And now I have art on my body that I get to stare at every single day. And it has really also improved my confidence in my body. Next thing is talking about the addiction of being tattooed. I think it definitely is an addiction. And I know a lot of people will relate to that, because the more you get covered, the more you're just like, I just kind of want to get it over with and like just be fully covered and then stop, and that's done, and woo. But then you also have the thing of like the whole process of getting tattooed, I think is still fun, even though it does get more painful as I get older. And like I keep flip-flopping between being like, oh, I can't wait to get another tattoo, to like, oh, I just want to be fully done and not get any more, and so that's like something I constantly am flipping back and forth between. Next, talking about the physical strain on your body. Not that like being heavily tattooed is physically straining, but long sessions and getting tattooed in really, really painful spots. And as you get older and you get more tattoos, I've realized my body, I've spoken about this before in some other videos that I've posted on here, but I only really have my like painful spots left on my body, like my armpits, my bits on my torso, bits on my thighs, and on the back of my legs. Those are like most of my free spots, and they are all they're gonna be painful. And as you get older, your pain tolerance goes down for most people. At least I've noticed that for me. So it just becomes a lot more physically straining as you age, especially if you are more into like black work and heavier line work like I am. It's pretty intense sometimes. So I did not realize that tattoo fever, tattoo flu was a thing when you have like big sessions or long sessions or sessions on more painful spots. Sometimes for the next few days after that, you are sleepy. It's like you have the flu. You feel sick and you are tired, and the physical strain it has on your body, you just have to plan a few days in advance after getting a big tattoo to be like, you gotta rest and take care of your body and eat healthy and stay hydrated and get lots of vitamins in you, and just relax and rest, because your body's gone through a lot of physical strain. So if you're a person with periods, your period does have a role in how much a tattoo hurts, which is something that I found out the hard way. So kind of like little content warning for the next one, we'll talk about like, so for me as a woman specifically who is heavily tattooed, I do get, I don't know if I can say that word, so I'll be safe and just kind of, by men a lot of the time, specifically online, by getting like really weird, creepy comments. But isn't that the usual life of a woman, isn't it? But I feel like it's increased the more I get tattooed, and it's just like a lot of like comments that you get in real life as well. I have a lot of instances where I have just had the most out-of-pocket comments made by men, and I'm just there like, what went through your brain before you spoke and said that? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, jail immediately, you know what I mean? So that is unfortunately something that you have to be aware of, that will probably most likely happen and is very, very common, specifically with women. I'm sure men and other genders do get it as well, but that is like something that you just have to be aware of, that unfortunately does happen. It's like a lot of time, a lot of men will view it as like an invitation to come and like discuss your body or ask you inappropriate comments about your body, specifically like, oh, like where else are you tattooed and things like that. And that, if you are a person watching this and you think those are comments that are okay to make, please just don't. Keep those to yourself. Let's not say those comments out loud to random people we don't know. And even if you know the person, don't discuss those unless the person themselves brings it up, because it's really weird and inappropriate and just not a fun conversation to have. And just because somebody has tattoos on their body isn't an invitation for you to start talking about their private areas, if that makes sense. That's a very unfortunate thing about being heavily tattooed, is the of your body. But then also on the flip side of that, just to bring it back to a little bit of a positive note, another thing with being heavily tattooed is, I will go a lot more into this and talk about specific pieces on my body and the stories behind them in another video, but just speaking in general, being heavily tattooed has insanely increased my body confidence and has made me feel so much more me. And like, it really is just an expression of art on your body, and I think that is incredibly beautiful. It's like having like the story of your life on your body in art forms, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, even if you have pieces that you got when you were like 18 and you regret them, that's a story on your body from a moment in time, just like permanently on your body. And like, how cool is that? I think there's such a beauty to like being heavily tattooed, and the amount of stories behind tattoos, the amount of memories. And even though there are negatives to being heavily tattooed, I think all of the positives outweigh the negatives. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little yap fest. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And you can check out my TikTok, Sarah Puto, or my Instagram, Saggy Sarah. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.